sky. Don't let it all go passing by. You know you only get one life.
There are no limits. There are only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them. Bruce Lee's words feel tailor-made for my guest today. Dan Metcalfe has lived multiple lives in one. He grew up fighting childhood asthma, became a professional soccer player in England, earned recognition as Nike Youth Coach of the Year here in the US, and even found his way onto the stage in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Starlight Express. But then came the devastating spinal injury, the kind of life-altering moment where most people's story would end. Dan chose a different ending. Instead of giving up, he created a philosophy called Born SuperHuman, built on 7 natural pillars: oxygen, hydration, sleep, nutrition, exercise, mindset, and challenge. His work today helps elite athletes, stroke survivors, and everyday people unlock the strength and resilience they didn't know they had. Today, we're going to talk about resilience, reinvention, and the truth about the superhuman potential inside all of us. Now, let's welcome Dan Metcalfe to the show. Hi, Dan. How you doing? Welcome to the show. I am really, really pumped to have you on. And your background, the Born Superhuman, it's already getting me even more excited to get this conversation going. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, but I'm getting better. Thanks, Charles. It's great to be here, and I love what you do. So it's very exciting to be able to share the message with your audience that engages in your style of mindset.
Awesome, Dan. I really, really appreciate it. And I was actually honored that you accepted to be on here. I think what you're doing is really, really amazing work, and I'm really hoping that folks that listen to this show who may not know about you really start to get to know who you are better and see some of the amazing things that you're doing. And with that, maybe if you could do a brief intro of yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. First off, it is called Born Superhuman, the program I have, but I want people before they hear my story to understand I'm talking about you. We're all born superhuman. It's not me. It's just, I have this whole idea. And it's proven through training over 70,000 people so far. It's not what we've done that determines who we are. It's what we do with what we've done that determines where we are. So all of us have incredible stories or moments of brilliance and overcoming. That's the born superhuman. It's what we do with that that now carries us into living that way. So I shouldn't be here talking about this. If I looked at the trajectory of my life in the past, I wouldn't be here. But the reason I am is because of things that happened through my journey that led me to this point. So if I go back, I was an athlete growing up, and I'm going to keep this really short because I want to get to the promise that I'll give your audience, your listeners, is that there's going to be actionable information here that's about you. So if you listen to this and listen through, there'll be some seeds planted that will impact your life. So athlete growing up, changed at the age of 18, decided I didn't want to be a professional soccer player anymore. And I'd done 8 years with the Royal Marine Cadets. My grandfather came from a military background. So I was going to go into the military. Started doing aerobics to get supple for mountain climbing because I want to go to the special forces. If you're going to do something, do it the best. And the teacher there said, you should become a dancer. And I'm like, what? A dancer? My papers were coming through in 2 weeks' time. So she dared me to go to an audition in London to Lane Theatre Arts, brilliant theatre school. And so I took the dare just for a laugh, and they offered me a full 3-year scholarship. And I started 2 weeks when my papers came through. I was already wearing ballet tights, jazz, tap, modern, things that I would never have done. I was a man's man, and suddenly here I am in this emotive, beautiful world that I'd never even experienced before. So I'm going to jump this forward. Let's get to what really happened. I got to play the lead in Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber shows. This is the guy that wrote Phantom of the Opera, Jesus Christ Superstar, Evita, Starlight Express, Cats. Brilliant, brilliant composer. And I was performing during a show in Las Vegas. I fractured my spine during the show and I was paralyzed, and the doctor said that I'll be disabled for life. So that was a bit of a shock to the system. I was in the height of my physical ability, in my opinion, and suddenly my life was robbed. Well, I had to look at what was happening, and it was cheaper for the insurance company to disable me than it was to fix me. So I had to take that unto myself and say, I'm more important than the opinion that those are coming at me with. And it's up to me to take the lead. And if I don't take the lead in my life, if I sit there and I hope, which I don't believe in, I don't believe in hope. I do for others. Hey, Charles, I hope you have a great day. I hope this podcast is super successful. Everyone listening, I hope you achieve all your dreams. But for me, hope is useless. It's procrastination. Hope is a thing that we wait for other people or things to come to us, and so we don't take action. It has to be belief. I believed I could get better. And when you believe, it's actionable because you will take the step.
Mm.
Well, I came back, became a head coach on the Olympic development program for soccer, became Nike Coach of the Year. Under Armour brought me in for 10 years to be a spokesperson for their brand in the soccer world. Open my own sports performance training center. Everything's going great. I have a non-profit for kids that I've put over 400 kids into Division I schools. I was racing the Ironman, fully healthy. And then in 2018, I'm coming back from a training ride, and a security guard brought a metal gate down on my head at 22 miles an hour, roughly. I was knocked unconscious for over 3 minutes. Secondary impact when my head hit the ground. Part of my brain died. I had to learn to talk again, had to learn to function, had to learn to move properly, even stay awake. I had to train myself to not have my brain shut down. And that really was the beginning of We're All Born Superhuman. So that's a quick wrap up of my story. And from there, I now help people tap into the amazing, brilliant potential by cutting out all the negativity, the false messaging that society brings us, tear down the walls that have been built around us, and unleash, because it's not about our age, it's about our decision.
Wow. That's really inspiring stuff, Dan, honestly. And listen, I'm sorry you've been through so much. There's a lot of misfortune there, right? But I guess, we're never giving what we can't handle, I like to think. And it's obviously brought you to where you are today. And, some people will disagree with me for this, but I always believe that what things that happen to us and the way we deal with them, it's because there's a purpose that we're meant to be doing. And I think this is obviously your purpose. And just hearing that introduction gets me even more excited to have this conversation.
Thank you.
When I was reading about you and your story, there was a word that came to my mind, and I wanted to start off with this. When I see you and I look at your story and what you've been through, the word reinvention comes to mind. I feel like you've been through some really radical reinventions: athlete, performer, coach, hell, survivor. What's the thread that ties all those lives together, Dan?
Yeah, great question. And I appreciate you saying, people say, I'm sorry for what you've gone through. I'm like, thank goodness I went through what I went through.
Mhm.
I believe that everything is a gift if we wrap it correctly.
Mhm.
And instead of being the victim, I turned it around and said, it's time for me to be my hero. We can all be the hero or the victim, and that comes down to who we are. So going back to your question, it's a great question. I'm a dreamer. We all grew up as babies having dreams of what we wanted to do, and often we settled for less. And when things happened, I looked at the opportunity that brought me rather than the restriction it brought me. There's a great saying, every level has its own devil. So when I reached a certain point, what was the lesson that I had to learn? And maybe this is the thread. It's looking at lessons and seeing opportunities. But there's a story that I love to share about my father. I didn't have a great relationship with my father growing up. I loved him. He was my hero, but we didn't mesh in the way that I look at and said, if I had a son, I would do it different. But we all believe that, right? Until we're living it, we don't know. But The day before I started theatre school, and telling my father that I was going to go into dance was a really hard thing to do because I'd always been grown up. I was a fighter. I was on the streets. I was the anti-bully, no matter how big the opponent was. And that was my dad who taught me to be a fighter. And he took me to see a theatre show called Starlight Express, which was Andrew Lloyd's show. I didn't even know my dad liked the theatre. At the end of the show, and it was incredible. I mean, it really lit me up. And my dad looked at me and said, "What do you think?" I said, "Oh, Dad, it was incredible. This was amazing. These were like demigods to me, singing, skating, dancing, incredible." And he said, "One day you'll be in that show." And I said, "No, I'll never be good enough." And he said 8 words to me that changed my life that I live by. And this goes for everyone listening. These words apply to every single human that is still breathing. Those 8 words are: somebody has to do it. Why not you?
Hmm.
Somebody has to do it. Why not you? So if someone's struggling, somebody is going to overcome it. Why not you? If someone's got poor health, why aren't you the one that's going to inspire others to become everything they're born to be? And the difference there is whether we sit back and hope, wait, or don't believe in ourselves, or if we said, okay, this is my lot in life, and I agree with you, I say everything happens because of a reason. The world's moving. Grasp it, bring it together, and say, what's the lesson and where is destiny taking me? Because I can't control destiny.
That's really strong stuff, Dan. And when you mention that phrase, those 8 words, it's interesting to me because there's something for me that when I went through my own struggles, it was something similar. It was about that saying how everybody has a why, right? I realized, and the only way I was able to finally get my life in order was it was not about my why, it was about my why not. And I realized I was the why not. Why everything was going wrong in my life, it was me. I was the why not things weren't going good for me. So I get how words and framing things like that can really, really make an impact. And I think those 8 words are really people listening today really need to hear that. And I think it'll really make an impact on them. I guess that leads into this then. When I think about those 8 words, after your spinal surgery, doctor said one thing and you obviously chose a different path. What at that point in time, what flipped that switch for you to fight back?
Well, the night that I was in hospital and had this prognosis by the doctors that didn't know me, they just read a book. And I'm not anti-doctor. My mum's a doctor. My grandfather was a doctor. I think it depends. There's so many limitations on doctors nowadays because of insurance risk, because of lawsuits, because of all the different stuff, protocols they have to stick with, that I'm not going to listen to somebody that doesn't have my best interest in their heart. And I'll find that the most important environment, because we become our environment, the most important environment that you can build is the one inside you. Because when you build your environment, you will attract the right people. You build it, they will come. And when somebody isn't right for you, you don't accept them in. You push them away, not because they're not good people, not because they're not smart. They're just not right for you. And if you look at the best boxers in the world, the ones that won the world championship, it wasn't just they were the most talented. They had the best team around them that they could trust. And when you saw a demise coming, and I'll use Mike Tyson as an example, when you had Customado, who had Mike Tyson's character and heart in his interest, and then you bring in Don King that had money and didn't care about Tyson. He cared about what Tyson could bring him. Look at the demise of the greatness. Now, all of us have the strength to be the fighter for us. Who's bringing you down? And when you can turn around and look in the mirror and say, I'm going to put myself first in this situation because self-love is not selfish, it's essential. What I do with that self-love to help others determines the ego behind it. I have a massive ego, and everybody listening should have a massive ego. You should have a massive ego, Charles, and I know you do because you do this podcast and bring things to people. We want to be the best. That's our ego. The negative ego is where we put other people down and don't serve them with it.
Mm. I like the way you did that because as you were saying it, I was thinking that I'm like, there's there's levels with ego. There's the good ego that we all have to do the things we do, but then there's that negative ego. That negative ego is, I think we need to that has to be away from us because we won't accomplish anything. We could have the best message in the world. You have that negative ego, they're tuning you out. No, that was really well done there. I love the way you framed that, Dan. Thanks. Let's get
Yeah,
into this. I'm
I
sorry,
was
go
just
ahead.
going to say, I was going to say, everyone listening, we're searching for stuff, right? We either want to get better or we don't care. And people say, okay, we're all driven by different things. There's not a one way to be driven. So if you're driven by money, there's nothing wrong with that. See, money is not the root of all evil. Greed is the root of evil. And greed can be sapping people's energy. We've all walked into a room full of energy and we walk out drained. Or we walk in feeling down and we walk out feeling uplifted. That's an energy that's coming in. Whatever people, what we're providing to people is with a positive mindset. I hope that everybody, and I can hope for others, I can't hope for myself. I believe that I will be able to have more impact the richer I am. When I talk about richness, I'm talking about financial.
Mm.
But what we do with that money determines who we are. So everyone, try and be your best. Whatever you're struggling with, find the solution. I'm here today to share some of those solutions with you so that you can exceed and excel and become the overachiever and then be everything you want to be to make yourself proud and everybody around you. We know my mum and dad are more proud of what I'm doing today than when I was playing the lead. I had 8 bodyguards at one time. When I was touring, we'd have so many things going on, and yet my mum and dad are more proud today of how I'm helping others than when I was the celebrity on stage getting standing ovations.
Yeah, and you just said about energy. I came into this with pretty high energy, and I got to be careful because the energy is getting even higher. No, I'm really enjoying what you're bringing, and it's definitely infectious in a really good way. So that's yeah, you rub off on people. I don't know if you've ever been told that, but you really do. You have a way of bringing the energy up. It's really I like this a lot. So thank you. We definitely have to get into this, my friend, the superhuman framework. Reading about it. I know you have a book about it. What I took from what I was able to gather through some research is you talk about 7 pillars for reclaiming natural power. I want to ask you about what those pillars are. And then I was curious about this because you say 7 pillars, and I don't like to necessarily talk about the negative, Dan, but I am curious. What pillar would you say out of those 7 do people underestimate the most and why?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, um, I have to say the 6th pillar I teach first. So in the programs that I teach, we go to number 6 first, because if that is weak, nothing else will continue with the consistency that it needs to be. And the 6th pillar is mindset. And you'll hear mindset being taught all over the place. And how many of those people have actually lived it and shifted it from potential death to thriving? And it's not putting down anybody's program. But what we miss is the ability to rewire the brain. After my brain injury and creating the Total Balance Company, which was about reconnecting the brain to the body, that really taught me how do we rewire the brain. See, when a baby's born, and this is why I go back to Born Superhuman,
Mm.
right? We're not born perfect. And my uncle had cerebral palsy. What an incredible life he lived when the doctor said, put him in a home. And my grandfather said, no, that's my son.
Mhm.
And they brought him home. He lived an incredible life for, I wish I could remember how old he was when he passed, but in his 80s,
Mm.
working, doing things that society said wasn't possible. See, when we're born, the doctor doesn't look at us or look at the mother and go, okay, I'm going to cut the umbilical cord. Are you ready? And both parties say yes, and then he cuts. A baby, when that umbilical cord is cut for the first time in their life, is independent. They're no longer, since conception, relying on the mother to give them the nutrients and the development they need. What happens? The baby takes the first breath. And that first breath that kicks in from the system that was trained to do that when is needed is really painful. They take a deep breath and it's painful. So what does the baby do? Straight away, it starts to breathe shallower, quicker breaths. It doesn't even know this. The system we have is phenomenal.
Hmm.
And then with the team around, the baby takes on its own existence. But when we're born, we have roughly between 85 and 86 billion brain cells. No more than we have today, or certainly within that very close range. And with neurogenesis, we can create new brain cells, but we've basically got the same number from birth all the way through till when we die. Now, this is what's incredible. What we don't have is the synapse. The synapse are the lines of communication between the neurons to get us to the way we think, to learn the language that we learn, to mimic what we see, to find our own desires in life with our own uniqueness. That is very much shaped by the environment that we're in. Where most people that are suffering, and I would say a vast majority, do not have a bulletproof mindset. It's because those wirings within the brain have been set up for fear, for doubt, for lack of confidence, for accepting underachievement, by being held back by others that are jealous of your talents to make them feel stronger because they don't want to see you exceed. They'll be your friend as long as you sit in their group. And what happens? Slowly over time, as we age, we begin to get comfortable instead of stay uncomfortable, that a child does learning, a sports person does growing, all those things. So I've jumped off a little bit off of your question,
Okay.
but mindset is the determining factor. People will turn around and go, I don't have enough time for that. I don't have enough time to do this. I wanted to do it, but I just can't do it. Well, that's not a lack of time. It's a lack of discipline of time. Because if we get rid of the things that are holding us back, that make us comfortable, we open up time. Even if you say, I'm swamped, I don't care. You got 5 minutes you can find a day, and that 5 minutes can have a dramatic impact on your ability to live life the fullest.
Yeah, you definitely. I'll tell you this right now. I haven't read your book yet, but I'm already, as you're speaking, I'm like literally in my head. I'm going, as soon as I'm done here, I'm getting that book. So I'll probably have it Sunday when I'm sitting back and relaxing. I think I'll be reading your book this Sunday. Really, really interested in some of these concepts and some of the things you are talking about there. Um, so the mindset, the one that they underestimate. Could you maybe talk a little bit about the other pillars that you think are that make up that seven?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. And I'm going to give you some information in here that when we've done this, that will change the way people think about themselves. It's very, very simple. It's very controversial. It's very against what we've been taught, and people will reject it. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. So we'll come to that after we've gone through the 7 pillars, but that may be the greatest difference I'm going to help people today. And hopefully they'll go to my programs and look at it. And the book is very basic because I want to engage people. It's not getting scientific. So it's a quick read. It's fun. It will just open up the thought process to the more we can do.
Mm.
So the 7 pillars come in the order of importance to live our life the best we can. So it's not necessarily what we think, or it's not necessarily what we are going to go into and say, okay, I'll do that, but I won't do this. If we don't do these, we will die, right? That's exactly how we are. And we know because of the studies, the science, we're meant to live to 122 years fully functional, because on the end of cells are things called telomeres. And the telomeres are what protect the cells. They're like hard casings. And the things we do break down that casing. It's a bit like having that friction and rubbing it on a piece of metal. If you keep rubbing, the metal becomes scratched and eventually it will wear away. If we protect those telomeres and protect the ends of them, that by removing things, it's incredible. And it's not living to 122 with us being in a hospital bed, the American style of drugs and stuff. We're talking about living fully active, bar an accident. So, number one, the most critical of the pillars is oxygen. Right now, within a pillar, there's other things within there. So we've got to be able to process carbon dioxide. And the more we can do that and sustain the ability to function with or without oxygen in moments is critical. Now, when people say, well, oxygen, well, I'm just breathing. Well, yeah, absolutely. You're just breathing. That's bringing in oxygen. What's the quality of the oxygen?
Hmm.
We know if you drink good water compared to contaminated water, it affects our system with toxicity. And now we're trying to fight back. We also, with oxygen, we have to also look at what's the environment we're in. So if you're living in a mold-ridden house and you're breathing in mold, we know that it's going to affect your brain, your body, your all your organs, because now we're fighting against survival. But this is where people may say, well, I can't afford to move, or this is the breath that I'm taking as far as quality of air. We can improve it, but our whole emotional system is affected by the way we breathe.
Mm.
So if we take most people will breathe short breaths. So we're feeding the upper respiratory system. And it's enough. We're getting oxygen in, we're doing well. But what that does to our nervous system is it puts us in a state of stress. We don't even know it because we get used to it. And this is one thing I'll say with all these pillars, the brilliance of the body and the miracle of you is the fact that the body and brain will adjust to what's happening and say that's normal. We have pain. Eventually, if we don't fix the pain, we don't feel it as much because the receptors begin to shut down the messaging of the pain to the brain. And then we walk different. We start adjusting and we become used to that. And that's the danger. So if we breathe deep, and we're talking about lower breathing, taking longer, deeper breaths, more exhales, breathing through the nose more than the mouth because it will go deeper into our system, we get into a state of relaxation. And anybody listening, if you take deep breaths in through your nose for the count of 4 and out through the nose for the count of 4, just that simple breathing, you'll notice how you become relaxed. We're oxygenating more, but affecting the system. So again, in my program, we go much deeper into it, but something as simple as that will change your life.
Wow. Yeah, that just it, as you were talking about it, I was trying to make myself. I was literally breathing to a 4 count as you were saying it, and you can feel that difference. Yeah, now it's definitely intriguing. Definitely, like I said, I want to check out the book and look a little more into this. It's really, really exciting stuff because I think you had mentioned it earlier, Dan, about being uncomfortable, right? I think part of that is always willing to learn. You did mention now about you said something controversial you're going to say that people will reject. What is that?
You really want me to address that now?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do it. Before I say that, I just want to touch on your point of breathing. We don't even think of breathing.
Mm.
And there's a great comment that I've taken on from a Dr. Patrick Porter, who's brilliant with Brain Tap. And he said, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent.
Hmm.
And so I want people to think of that. What you're doing that you're not conscious of, it may not be perfect. It just works. We can still get better. Okay. This is really what I teach with mindset. And I'm not going to go into the depth of it here. If anybody's interested, they're most welcome to reach out. I'm here to serve everybody. You're going to reject me, but this also serves exactly what you teach, Charles, what you believe. And I've said this to so many people. Well, I do a lot of keynote speaking around the country. Every audience comes in, and by the time I say it, all I've asked them to do is open their mind to not reject it. I'm not saying accept it, just don't reject it. Take the time to think, because over time you'll see, and I've debated this with, scholars and ideologists and everybody, but I've taken people that have wanted to give up smoking for 30 years, and that day they've given up. They haven't been able to. Drinking, abusive relationships, underachievement on the soccer field to underachievement in your field of life. And I've never yet had one person that at the end has turned around and said, you're wrong. They do at the beginning. So here we go. Deep breath. Okay. In life, we don't have choices. And it's as simple as that. And people would go, and I lived this because I was a huge believer until my accidents and having to go through 4 years of depression because I put on 60 pounds in weight, because I couldn't stay awake, because I couldn't function, because I couldn't move, because my brain was shutting down. I had to go through, and I experienced that we don't have choices in life. Things happen for us, as we know. And to your point prior, I love to say, and I got this from Dan Solomon, who's the president of Mr. Olympia, I get to do this instead of I have to do this.
Mm.
I get to live my life. I don't have to live my life, right? So let me go deeper into we don't have choices. If I said to you, Charles, here's a line of cocaine, fresh from Colombia, it's the purest stuff. Go ahead, take it. What are you going to say?
I say no.
Hang on a minute. You answered that really quickly.
Hmm.
Why didn't you say, well, let me think about it? Because it's a choice, right?
No, that's not for me. No. I,
Okay.
yeah, no.
And this is the point I get to with Born Superhuman, right? What is it that made you say no without taking the time to decide?
It's not, it's not good for me. It doesn't serve my goals. I'm not gonna, I don't know. It's just, I don't need to make a choice. I think I inherently know what's good, right? I don't know. You got me really thinking as I'm like usually not this lost for words, but like that was great because no, I mean that's never been that, will never be that. It doesn't serve me and what I'm about.
Okay. And this beautiful thing, and I love that, Charles, is that people listening, some of them may do drugs and they go, yeah, I'll take it.
Mm.
Why are they going to take it? It wasn't a choice, right? That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a criticism of what people do. Drugs is just a very simple way because people are either yes or no. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to judge. I don't know the life you're living. I know it's not good for us, and I'll say that out because I study the brain. The brain is my specialty and rewiring it for its success. But now, if I turn around and said to you, the fact that you immediately said no, it wasn't a choice, brings us to the truth of life. The truth of life is we are all unique, and the thing that we're best at is being ourselves, right? Nobody could be a better child. Nobody could be a better listener than that person that's listening being themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, we're numbed down or dumbed down by society to change what we accept. So we don't have choices in life. What we do have is character.
Mm-hmm.
And our character will determine where we go. And so if I break this down even more, it's not about being perfect. It's not about being right. It's about seeing what's happening and making a decision that now is non-negotiable for our future, for our best. So if you have someone that is constantly in relationships where they're cheating on their partner, it's not because they're choosing to cheat on their partner. Their character needs to have that moment to turn around and go, okay, I'm still attractive to someone. I'm not enough for myself. And we think we're actually hurting somebody that's in a relationship with us that loves us for the sake of being satisfied and gratified that we're still important, that we could still attract someone, that someone still wants us. But you've got someone that loves you. You've got someone that wants you, but we can't commit to them. That's a lack of character of saying, I'm pretending to be in a relationship. I'm pretending to let them think I love them, and I'm cheating on them. This is just an example. What would be better if your character wants to have that gratification and say, I can't be in a relationship. I'm not going to hurt other people. That is who I am. But this is the beautiful thing. When we rewire the brain, when we change the way we think, and we set non-negotiables and realize we as ourselves, and this is the biggest point maybe I'll share today. The biggest point is we are strong enough and we are born powerful enough to stop doing anything that doesn't serve our life for our happiness. But over time, we're worn down or restricted or even told we're wrong for the sake of somebody else having control over us or something else having control over us. But when we make it a non-negotiable, and I've seen this so many times with people I've trained, they were drug addicts, they no longer are. It's because they said, it doesn't serve me. I'm stronger than the drug. It is no longer negotiable. And even in the toughest times, when the urge, when the addiction is still there, they compare the product compared to themselves. Is that really stronger than me? If it's stronger than me, I need to develop my character. I need to find the flaw that's stopping me from realizing how powerful I am and reject it. And this is where my training comes in of rewiring the brain to remove the addiction, to remove the need, to remove the desire, and look at it and go, I am born superhuman.
Mm.
It's time to carry that through, because a baby that's born, we look at it, oh, how cute. We don't realize how powerful it is. But look how it's evolving over the first 20, 26 years of its life. Then we hit 30, 40, 50, and we stop feeling powerful, but we have more knowledge, we have more gain potential, and we've got the same system we had as a baby, but we slowly give it up.
Man, you're going to have me really thinking a lot over this weekend. I got to tell you, yeah, I'm like processing what you were just saying there. And it's almost, to me, I start going to, well, then there's not choices, there's decisions. But ultimately, everything I came to in my head as you were speaking there, well, wait, there is a choice between this and this. It did come back to what you said. It's like, you know what? Regardless of what it is, there's something about it, something in that is better for me than the other almost all the time.
Well,
Interesting.
let me share this even more, because this will help you, because I'm not telling you to agree with me. I
Mm,
want people to take the information and evaluate for themselves. It's not people following me. The greatest leaders in the world don't have the most followers. The greatest leaders in the world create the most leaders.
mm,
And a leader can't lead if they don't have their own belief system. Otherwise, you're just a lemming
mm,
following somebody else's words. But when you come to your own decision of what you are and what works for you, it's great. But look, when people say I have choices, choices for me are either an ego or an excuse, right? Look at the choice I made. Look, I'm now getting this. Look what I got. Look at the, I changed my diet and I stuck with it and I made that choice because I'm the hero.
mm,
And I'm like, no, no, no. Your commitment, your decision, your discipline, your sustainability was your character that made you keep that diet that was good for you.
mhm,
But if they go, yeah, I lost the weight, but then, I went out with some friends and then I had, a couple of drinks and then I, had my chips and all the other
mhm,
stuff, and then I lost it and now I haven't been able to keep the diet for the last 3 months. That becomes an excuse. You suddenly blamed your friends, you blame the food, you blame all the different things out there, instead of, well, if you made the choice to do well and that's your ego, then you also made the choice to fail. There's nobody else's. So it can't be an ego and an excuse. It really is just revealing who you are and what you're willing to commit to for your good. So if someone's struggling in business, don't blame the customer. Don't blame society. Don't blame the current crazy political anger on both sides. You'll live in it. If you have the right character, you'll find the success through. And it's hard. Don't get me wrong. This isn't easy, because we have to break habits and we have to then look at things that are happening and say, what's my part in this? And what is my role and ability to be able to get to a better, higher ground with my integrity, with my honesty, with my pride, and loving the journey? That's your character.
And Dan, when you talk to people about this, obviously you said it. You said, a lot of people reject it or they want to reject it. It's controversial. How do you how do you get to the point where you can help? And again, it's not that you're forcing them. How do you get them to start to maybe accept it or to at least be open-minded? Because I do think what you said there. I think there's a lot of people when you say up front, there's no choices. I mean, I don't mean it's wrong. I think a lot of people will be like, this guy's crazy. That's not true. How do you get beyond that? Because I consider myself pretty open-minded. And when you said that, that didn't That wasn't that controversial to me. I'll be honest with you. That to me was, you know what? I want to hear this, right? I wanted to hear how you frame that, honestly. So how do you get though to get beyond that wall that people will probably put up?
Well, first off, by telling you it's controversial, people want to hear.
I wanted to hear.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Secondly, by telling you you're going to reject me, people naturally say, no, I won't. So, because they are bigger than what I'm going to tell them. Then when I say it, I've also said, I'm just going to ask you to keep an open mind. When I first came up with the conversations about choice over character, I rejected it initially. And I said, fine, if I don't have any choices in life, sorry, if I don't have a choice in life, I'm just going to lay in bed all day. It's, I don't have a choice. And I lay there and I got through about an hour and a half trying to prove that it's my choice to lie in bed, right? I'm doing it. But after an hour and a half, I'm like, I can't do this. I got to get up and get going. What did I get up? I got up and went to the gym. Why did I go to the gym? Because I needed to exercise because I was so frustrated. I went, hang on a minute. My character came out through my attempt to make a choice. It revealed who I was. And what I found is a lot of people that reject it, but they think about it, slowly begin to look at their own life.
Mm.
It's not about me. Everything I teach is about you. So when you walk away from the conversation and then you turn around and go, this is interesting. And you start to think, you will start aligning your life to your thoughts, not mine. And so as we go through that, it's fascinating. I go, you know what? I'm making the wrong choice constantly.
Mm.
That means if I'm constantly doing or flopping back and forth, that's actually my character that's not set. Because when it's set, I would do the right thing even through the toughest of moments
Mm.
because I know it's good. And when I find out it's not good for me, all I have to do is say, I'm on the wrong path. I'm going to switch to this path, and that becomes my character. I'm going to stick to that because I know it's best for me and my friends and my family and my dreams.
Yeah, it's really strong. And it gives a lot to, I think, I know for me, and I can only go by me, but I think people listening to this will have the same reaction and they will probably walk away from this doing a lot of thinking, soul searching. And I think they will have an open mind, honestly, because I think you frame it appropriately and allow people to have an open mind. Um, I had two more things I did want to ask you, and you mentioned leadership a little bit, and I was curious from someone in at your level in your position, you've obviously dealt with a lot of high level individuals, a lot of different areas of life. What would you say, Dan's the toughest leadership lesson you've had to live, not just teach?
Well, there's two, and I'll keep them both short because again we can talk about this maybe another time or search through Born Superhuman. The first one is the second most powerful word in the world, and it is yes is the most powerful word in the world. Do you love me? Yeah, people go love is well love is a rejection as well, right?
Mm.
Do you love me? Yes. Did I get the job? Yes. Am I good enough? Yes. Did I pass the exam? Yes. Am I achieving my goals? Yes. The second most important word is the one that we're taught to avoid. It's no.
Mm.
No is rejection. No is something that we can't, bring in. You avoid it. People would turn around and go, would you like to sign up for my program? Would you like to join my club? Would you? And people go, well, let me think about it. And they go, okay, great. It's procrastination. You're wasting time.
Mm.
No is a capital N, capital O, and it stands for next opportunity.
Mm.
I love it.
Mm.
If someone says no to me, it doesn't take me down. It frees me up. That's the one thing that I feel that in leadership is there. And the second thing was letting people go. That was the hardest thing, friends, or facing the truth that I knew, but emotionally it would hurt me. And what it is, as I said, every level has its own devil. For me to grow, sometimes you have to let people go, not because you don't like them, they're going to hold you back. But I say the only time we ever look down on someone is when we're helping them up. So if I can advance and then find those friends that rejected me or chastised me or laughed or I had that a lot through my life. I then can turn around and say, hey, you want to join me? And sometimes people just needed to have the inspiration to unbind the chains holding them down and go up. So no is an incredible word. Don't, it's not rejection, it's freeing. And at the same time, don't stay in an environment that's holding you back. And sometimes it can be painful, but we have to make the move. We only live our life, and nobody's going to think about us when we're gone of how much better we could have been. It's just what we were.
Yeah, I like that. I'll definitely take that from this about the word no. I think that's I've never heard it said that way. I really thanks for that. It's really, really interesting way to look at it. So I'll ask you this as we close out here. If Dan, if every person listening today could strip away the noise and face themselves in the mirror for just 1 minute, what would you tell them about the superhuman they were born to be?
They already know the superhuman they were born to be, because no matter our upbringing in an abusive home, in a beautiful home, we had dreams. We had goals that were there that inspired us and excited us to wake up every day. And slowly over time, we gave up on them.
Mm,
And people say, well, I'm too old now. Age is never the reason. We don't stop playing because we age because we stop playing.
mhm,
And when we look at our dreams and we look at things we want to do, we may not be able to do them at the level, but we'll find a new dream within that.
mm,
The guy that wanted to play in the NBA, but became the best janitor ever around the players every day. It doesn't matter what it is. There's a part of us that's still excited. If we can go back and look at what we were as children, what excited us, why we don't wake up excited anymore, and tap back, go look in the mirror, look at the child in you, and start saying, I want to do those things again that used to make me happy. Even if it's put music on and dance the crazy ways we did with the music we grew up with. Start changing your environment inside of the way you think, because how we think is who we are.
mm.
And change the environment you're in inside and slowly spread it. And you would be amazed. And I love training people through this and see incredible results. Go back into who you were, because it's still there. It's just numbed down.
It's awesome. I think people will really, if you sit and listen to that, and I would challenge people to listen back to that a couple times because I think what you said there, it's something as almost a bit of a meditation, a mantra. If you really listen to what you said there, it has a lot of value in it. And I think it will push people to get some of that back, Dan. That's the way I can say, get some of it back. You gotta want to fight for it a little bit too. And like you said, I don't think age should be an excuse. I really, really don't. Um, Dan, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in your programs, your books? I'll put show notes, but I like to give everyone an opportunity to let people know where they're at, what they have going on.
Charles, you're great. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to reach people that I wouldn't have been able to touch. And even if it's just one person, that's invaluable to me. I truly care. This is not a business. This is a mission. It's a
Mm.
movement, because when one person changes, they change those around them. So thank you. They can go to bornsuperhuman.com and look at the programs that I have there. I have some free programs in there as well, and you'll find out what the other 6 pillars are, or 5 pillars, because we talked about 2. You can also go, and this is an incredible program that I have for anyone with neurological disease, MS, Parkinson's, ataxia, stroke survivors, all this different stuff, or someone that's losing their balance or brain to body connection. Go to totalbalancecompany.com. It's a program I'm passionate about and I've changed lives. And then my own personal, and those are both on Instagram as well, Born Superhuman and Total Balance Company. And then my own personal is Dan Metcalfe, that's with an E at the end of Metcalfe, underscore official. So those are the things. But reach out to me. I love getting emails, write comments. You know, obviously, Charles, I'll be following this podcast as well. If anybody leaves a comment on here, I'll respond to it as well.
Okay.
I really want to help everybody
Mm.
take that first step over the start line to their beautiful finish line.
That's awesome, Dan. Yeah, this has been, I feel like honestly, and if you're up for it, probably in the future, I would love to have you back on because I think you're the type of guest that there's probably a lot more we could unpack. Obviously, I felt like there's not enough time sometimes to get through everything, but you've already got me thinking about an episode 2 of things that I kind of want to ask and would love to have you back on again, if you're open to it. So thank you
I would
so
love to.
much.
Be
Yeah,
an
that
honor.
that would be awesome. Well, listen, everybody, I hope this, like Dan said, keep an open mind. And I think if anything, this should get you thinking, get you motivated, get the brain moving. It did for me. And I really appreciate that. And I hope it did the same for all of you. Dan, thanks again for joining me. And I want to say thanks for everybody for tuning in. It's really appreciate it. What a conversation. Dan Metcalfe's story reminds us that the limits we accept are often the ones we've been told, not the ones that are real. He's walked through asthma, injury, and even the edge of life itself, and he's come back not just whole, but with a framework to help others do the same. The Born Superhuman philosophy isn't about being invincible. It's about connecting back to the fundamentals, breathing, resting, fueling, moving, thinking, and challenging ourselves. It's about remembering that our bodies and our minds are wired for resilience if we're willing to push past the plateau. So here's my challenge to you. Don't settle for the limits you think are permanent. Ask yourself, where am I accepting less than I'm capable of? Where have I stopped moving forward? And then take one step, just one, beyond that plateau. Because, like Dan has shown us, the superhuman isn't something you become, it's something you're born with. The only question is whether you'll choose to unlock it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of the Bare Essentials podcast. And remember, dare to roar.
This has been the Bare Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.